Hi guys, welcome to Brad's Workshop. I just want to take you in for a little tour on the 20-foot long by 10-foot wide carport turned into wood shop. Now, as you know, these carports, they don't come all the way down, they just cover the top. And I've got these cabinets that I threw in there along the side, and actually on some of that, there's actually a tarp hanging behind there to keep the rain from getting the back of the cabinets wet. In other places, there's actually material, but this carport is sandwiched in between two garages, so there's no way to do anything from the outside except for the two ends. Now, it was about 3 years ago in the wintertime, I started putting tools out here and just kind of building the area to where it could be functional as a shop, and it wasn't very functional, it was just kind of thrown together. And then in the summertime, as you all know, if you have a metal roof shop, that it just gets into a easy bake oven situation where you're just radiating heat down on your head. I've spent the last couple of weeks on my free time just kind of getting in here and digging out some of the old stuff and going through some of the things that have just been in here that don't need to be in here anymore, and just trying to make more space and trying to use up some old material to make this ceiling grid. And of course, I got into the ceiling grid for a couple nights and I was doing that and using scraps and everything. And then, lo and behold, I'm doing research on the internet and I find out that I was looking at Reflectix, and it's very costly to buy. It's about, I think it's $75 for a roll that would do about half of this shop. And I said, there's got to be a better way, least expensive way to do it. And I started looking at space blankets, but they only come in these little sheets, and if you've ever dealt with them, they tear real easy. So I got on Amazon and I looked up the emergency tents. Now they're Mylar silver on one side and they're orange or green on the other. And it's actually a lot stronger material than just like a space blanket. And I got these tents for $13 a piece, and I used three of them for this ceiling. And I can tell you that the difference in the heat generated from that roof coming down on my head, even though it's not a real hot day already, I can tell a big difference already because you just don't feel the heat coming from the roof. It's only a foot away from my head. So the way it works is the Mylar can't really be touching anything, so you have to kind of suspend it just above that ceiling grid, and that's what I've done here. So where I did start earlier this week, I wasn't thinking about the Mylar, and I was going to put styrofoam up in there and bats of insulation and just try it that way. But I got halfway done, and then I got the tents. Emergency tent comes 7 foot long, and it's basically a tube. And when you cut it open, it makes it 8 foot by 7 foot. So 2.5 of these tents covered my entire roof of my shop. And I've just got it taped up to the edge just to kind of hold it up there until I find something else. So you could probably easily use magnets, which would be a really good way to keep that up there. But you want airspace between the roof and the silver facing up Mylar, and then you want the Mylar to be touching very little. And then in the future, I'll probably just go ahead and put a ceiling in there or drop some styrofoam in there just for a little added protection. But what I'm using is along the rails, I'm using some board right there that's standing up on end. And I think what I'm going to do is go to the dollar store and buy some of those pool noodles and just run pool noodles for really cheap, just up and down, just to keep the Mylar off of everything, so that the only thing it's touching is pool noodle, which should keep the transfer of heat to a minimum. Now, I will say this already, this has been just an amazing difference, and I'm really looking forward to seeing how much different it is, because at the end of that gable is an air gap at the top, and so that heat is reflected back up, and it reflects 90% of the heat back up towards the ceiling to the roof, and that air just goes right out the end where there's a opening at the end of the gable, and so it keeps the heat from coming down into the workspace. It really does keep it cooler. And if you have, last year I ran an air conditioner out there. Um, this year I think the air conditioner will actually help. The last year it only helped if you stood right in front of it. This also should help in the wintertime with keeping the heat lower than the ceiling and making it to where the heat doesn't hit the cold roof and cause moisture to drip from above, because that's what I dealt with in the wintertime also. You don't have to cover the whole metal roof. You just need to cover where this one's sitting. There's basically an eave of a garage leaning over both sides of this carport. So really this 7-foot span is really the only part that gets hit by the sun, which is working out pretty good. I'm anxious to see what this is going to do when it's 110 and 115 degrees this summer. But if it helps at all, any, to where I can get out there and even run an air conditioner and do stuff, that's going to be really beneficial. $13 for a tent. I bought 3 of them. It was $39 on Amazon. I'll put the link in the description. Thanks for watching the video. I hope this helps some of you guys that have some of these small sheds that you're working on and trying to keep them cool, because this, I guarantee you, if you spin this up in there, it's going to help. And another thing, I don't think you actually need to put a ceiling grid up there. If you use the magnets or whatever to stretch that across there, actually it's better for it to kind of be loose and just kind of have some swag in it, and not be so taut. But you could easily use magnets on your metal roof or even down the walls, like if you had a shed that was exposed on the walls, or like the back wall for the sunset or something. You could put this tent facing outward and hold it up there with magnets, and that would reflect a lot of heat out, as long as you leave an air channel for it to get out. And you could actually do not need a ceiling grid at all. So, and my best word of advice is do the Mylar first and then build the ceiling grid, instead of trying to go back a track and get everything straight around the ceiling grid. I hope this helps. Please like and subscribe. Thank you.